It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
All right, the Edmonton Oilers are fixed. Yada, yada, yada. I think everything's going to be okay. Dusty, Matt Kassian, and Joaquin Gage with you here on Two Guys and a Goalie today. If you are listening right now live on TuneIn or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, please know that you can text us anytime, comment on our conversations, dive into anything else that you may want to say at 780-218-9999. And, of course, in the nasty chat as well. Feel free to chime in on anything we have to say. We got a lot to discuss in the National Hockey League and around the hockey world today. Cass, how you doing today, buddy? How's things?
I'm good. So it was a lot of driving yesterday, so thanks, guys, for holding it together on the pre- and post-game show for me.
Were you driving for work yesterday?
Yeah, I was just all over the place.
Busy guy.
Yeah, busy. But no, we're good. I'm good. Still chewing through the whole coaching change thing.
You are, hey?
As is a lot of people. Still chewing through it.
I thought we didn't have to discuss it anymore because they won and everything's fine now.
Everything's fine. Yeah, it's all perfect. They didn't make any mistakes.
We haven't had a two guys since then, right? So we got lots to discuss, man.
No stylistically the same errors that they made yesterday. I'm still. Listen, that game really could have gone either way.
Last night. Yeah, you're right, Cass. And Gage, I guess. I texted. We were all texting, and I said, they've kind of let the Islanders dictate a really good road game here. But I said, and it was right before they scored, I said, but they could still win and kind of come out of this on top. So I don't know, Gage. You're like, I didn't think they were the better team through the first two periods, but in the end, they get some power play opportunities, and they find a way to win. Right? You got to win those games too, I guess.
Yeah, it was two teams that have been struggling off the hop, trying to find answers and ways to win. It was a very, very tentative game. I was a little worried after the first minute when the Islanders scored and looked like world beaters. But yeah, it was like a neutral site game almost, where they were both playing a road game, trying to see who blinks first.
It was, though. You're right. That's great.
That's how I watch it, and I think that was the type of game that both teams kind of needed, just to try to play just a solid game, not give up too much, and go from there. We'll see what happens next, but I think you just have to take the positive. If you're the Oilers, you take the positives. Your power play bailed you out, which it hasn't all year long. You were able to keep the team under 2 goals, which is great. Stuart Skinner has looked much better the last 2 games than all his previous starts. So there's too many good things I think that happened in that game that outweigh some of the inconsistencies that we still see.
Cass, what'd you think of this first Knoblauch performance? Yeah.
I was going to say it's amazing how much better your goaltending looks when you don't just give up backdoor tap-ins and cross-crease passes 5 times a game. Amazing how that happens. Amazing how your high-danger scoring percentage against goes down when you don't let that happen. Unbelievable. Shocking.
Well, he made a few point blankers last night, too, on some breakdowns where guys were there, but it wasn't a puck being moved across. It was like puck went to a shooter, he managed to square up, and he made the save, right? So,
and that's what you're supposed to do. And,
exactly.
And I just he hadn't even had many of those opportunities. And again, granted, could he have been better the first number of games? Absolutely. But everyone, you even saw an article written by an analytics junkie online that was like, "You believe Stuart Skinner, it's all the goaltending," and I'm like, no, it's not, but that's me. But yeah, Knoblauch's first game. I mean, not a few different looks in the lines. He hits the nuclear button once or twice again.
Late in periods to just get there, and
late in periods, which is fine. Like I get that at the end of periods, at the end of games, going to it, totally. Not. I don't think a bad or an odd strategy. But we'll still have to see. I mean, this is the first game. It's not like he's had a lot of practice time, a lot of time to talk with the team. So the jury's going to still be out on this. I mean, how many games? Maybe here's a question for you guys: how many games do you give him to say you have to turn this around?
I thought you were going to say before you fire him. I was like, I don't know, about 120, I guess. Gage, you answer that one first, man.
I find it difficult because I'm still under the impression if there was no change made, would there be much difference in the outcomes of the last two games?
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what you heard how Connor McDavid, he didn't lose the room. This was all, I mean, most players are going to say it's all on them, but it was, let's face it. Connor and Leon weren't half the men that they normally are, and they weren't getting great goaltending. There was way too many mistakes in every single zone. It's only over the last, I'd say, 3 games that things have started to sharpen up a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see. But I do like the implementation of everyone into the lineup. You've discussed on your show about how Coach Knoblauch wants to have assigned responsibilities for his players. I think that can be helpful. And overall, seeing the ice time of all the players throughout the whole lineup was really, really even. I don't know if that's a result of just not a lot of power plays and penalty kills that would affect that as well.
Allowed the lines to be rolled over a little bit more, right?
I like that. I think that will be an integral part of their success over the next few months, to get everyone involved and everyone feeling like they're a piece to the puzzle.
780-218-9999. Staying with that game last night, Draisaitl's been fined $5,000 for the cross-check to the lower legs of an opponent. Cass, what do you think of that play? $5,000 fine's nothing anyway.
That's fine.
It's
nothing. That's fine.
He looked a little pissy.
Guy in the neck.
Right? Yeah, he just looked a little pissy and was like, "I'm gonna
a little grumpy," which is okay. I'm fine with grumpy.
Cross-check you down here. It was just weird. I don't know.
I'm gonna hit you in the leg.
It was an awkward place to cross-check a guy because he had to reach down to do it.
Yeah,
instead of just giving him a shot in the back. So you're trying to take.
You're trying to catch him in a.
You're trying to take his feet out from underneath him.
Yeah, or you're trying to catch him in a place where there's not much padding. I mean, but
the hurt factor.
I mean, it's a fine. Should be a fine.
$5,000. Jeez, you know how you go up behind someone and they got straight legs and you kick their straight leg and they kind of give it that. That's what I equate that to.
Yeah.
2 minutes, $5,000. Wow, that's expensive. Oh, well, whatever.
Well, what do you think of Draisaitl and McDavid? What's last night possibly do for those guys? And I'm not being conspiracy theorist guy and being like, they combined for 6 points. As soon as Jay Woodcroft was gone, they'd given up on him or he was holding them back. I mean, I think there's a really good chance they would have combined for 6 points if Jay Woodcroft was still on that bench last night. So what does it do for them, Cass? Does it kind of get them finally? I know McDavid, I mean, he still looked off to me last night, but he got the goal. He managed to get an assist. Does this get them going?
I hope so. I mean, it was the most engaged we've seen Leon in a little bit, like where he looked a little bit better and he was moving around there. And now Connor, I agree with you. Still, just only seeing spurts, right? Seeing just little spurts of him playing his McDavid self. Probably still banged up, not at 100%. But you hope just the ability to get a couple points for him in particular is enough just to to throw the monkey off the back, to be able to generate some positive momentum and maybe able to just to move onward and upward and hopefully he's continuing to recover. I had a thought though yesterday, guys, just on McDavid. So I wanted to ask you this.
Okay.
If it is like an oblique or an abdominal injury or a hip injury, he missed one game. Did he not? Missed one game. Two games. Okay. And is it something I wonder? I had this thought cross my mind. I wonder if it's something that needs surgery.
Jeez.
Oh, you cut out.
It's not necessarily any worse.
Say that again, Cass. You went like wobbly right when you.
I wonder if it's an injury that requires surgery.
Whoa. Hey,
Yeah.
mute your mic
Jeez.
again.
Mute his mic.
Damn it.
Jesus.
Come on, man.
No, I wonder. I wonder because it's like if it's something that's not going to get any worse by continuing to play, but it's not going to get fully better without surgery because you're kind of like, well, you only missed 2 games, you're still hurt, and I understand the situation of the team, but would you not, give him an extra couple days to try to recover if he's still hurt? So I don't know. I just had that thought cross my mind. Am I convinced that that's what it is? No. But I just thought that yesterday and I wanted to bring it up and see what you guys thought. Now you're telling me to mute my mic. So,
well, I mean, I don't know enough about hockey injuries to know how much you can play through something when you need surgery. You would. So, yeah. Are you thinking like maybe there's a little tear there or something? And
there's something.
Yeah.
I mean, I played through surgery injuries twice, once for 4 months for the rest of the season. Horrible idea. Thanks, Tom Lynn, for that. Assistant GM being like, yeah, you're playing. Okay. I need surgery and I can't raise my right arm to 90 degrees. I can have like 4 inches of movement in each direction with it. Yeah, you're playing. Okay. The second one was the athletic pubalgia that we talked about. And I had 3 games in that. And I was holding my breath the whole time on the ice. It just wasn't functioning. It took me 2 days to be able to skate once of treatment. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It all depends on what type of injury it is.
I could see I could see you at the end of the season when they're like, oh, and McDavid had to have minor surgery for this thing. You would be like, yes, I knew it. I told you back in November. Like, Gage, you're pretty dark though, eh? Like they just get a new coach. They've won 2 in a row, and Cass is trotting out here that he's playing through something that might need surgery. Wow.
Well, first Loki, now this, Cass. Come on, man.
Well, we'll get to Loki. We'll get to
a little bit more positivity here. This is crazy. You're killing him.
I'm basically only excited for today's episode to discuss the ending of Loki at the end of the episode today. So we'll definitely get into that. But it does look like he's playing through a grimace all the time, right? Like on his face, it's always just like, I don't know. It does look like something's bothering him to the point where it nags him at least. So we'll see.
Doesn't have the same shot, right? Like he's not shooting the puck like he has. Well, he did last year. It doesn't seem like there's a lot on it. That could be something. But yeah, it's God. I hope not, because that takes away a lot from him. Just not always. I think he established himself as more of a shooter last year, beating goalies from especially coming off the half wall there on his offside on the power play. It was just another weapon that he was able to use. So now we'll see. Keep the ISO cam on it.
What do you guys think of? What do you think of McDavid and Gagner and Nuge together as a line? Because he puts them together first time last night, and then Knoblauch did say after the game last night that he believes in giving players some stability. So I'm kind of thinking we might see that for a little while, which is why it's worth discussing right now. Cass, what do you think of? I don't know if Gagner's like a placeholder there until Brown's good to go, but what do you think of Gagner, Nuge, and Connor McDavid?
Well, they won a hockey game. I'm a fan of having some stability. Something we saw early on from Jay Woodcroft, but we didn't see recently. I mean, Gagner, is he a guy that you want there long term? I don't know. Do you guys still think he's got the juice to play consistently in the top 6?
No, I don't think, like, nothing against Sam. I think he's been fine since he came in, but I don't like your overall top 6 if 34-year-old Sam Gagner coming in off hip surgery is going to end up settling in there. I think he's best being a driver for 11 to 12 minutes a night in your bottom 6, where they also need people to do that, right?
Yeah. I think I land there a little bit too. But you're trying to mix up everything a little bit, have some different looks right now. So who knows? Maybe until Brown's healthy, that's who you're going to see there. But I guess we'll find out.
Gage, what did you think of it last night?
Well, just for last night, I liked Sam Gagner's game. I thought he was tenacious. He was dogged on pucks. He goes to the hard areas. What I really like about his selection when he has the puck in the offensive zone, he's not forcing it anywhere, right? There's no hope passes with him. If he doesn't have anything, a lot of times it's either getting the puck down to a quiet area or getting a shot on net, making the goalie have to make a save, right? So I like the line. I think there was a lot more responsibility throughout it. Like I said this morning, Dusty, staying above the puck in most cases, like very aware of the situations in the offensive zone. But yeah, will it last forever? That'll be tough. I think Gagner coming off hip surgery. I hope he can keep this up, this level of play. But at his age and having that type of surgery, it's yeah, you're kind of crossing your fingers that everything holds together here.
I'm going to get to a few comments that have trickled in. 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Some really good questions that we'll definitely get to. David says, guys, it's very, very early days and a ridiculously small sample size. But if Knoblauch can calm the pressure that this team feels, or can he calm the pressure that this team feels, I like that possibility. Cass, what do you think about that? They're pretty high-strung group with all the pressure that was on them and they put on themselves coming into this season, and then the pressure of, okay, you might get a coach might get a coach fired. Overall, Knoblauch does seem like a pretty calm, chill dude. How much can that just help, having a calming presence around?
Well, I thought Jay Woodcroft was pretty calm, sometimes too calm, which is why he didn't hold players accountable. So
yeah, that's a good point.
Everyone is like, oh, this is the issue. He's not holding players accountable. He's like, well, and not saying that being, having a calming, chill personality doesn't mean you're not holding people accountable. You still could and have a calm personality and do it in a calm manner, I suppose. So that doesn't mean he's not going to do that. Can having a coach that is chill help this group? Possibly. The difficult thing, and one of the hard things with all this, is we don't know what's going on in that dressing room on a day-to-day basis from an interactions. And can he calm things down in games? Well, sure. But again, I kind of like Jay Woodcroft was like that. How often did we see Jay Woodcroft flip out on the bench or freak out? How often did we did he have his emotions up in a post-game interview? So I'm kind of like, I don't like, I know he, the calming that Knoblauch is talking about is just calming the style of play, not is trying to reel everybody in and get back to basics and not try to do too much. I mean, that's, I think, what he's speaking about when he's talking about calming. He's not just like bring the emotions down. It's just simplify. I think that's the kind of the direction. And is he going to have the ability to do it? I can't remember who the text was that you read off. But it is a small sample size. And so we'll have to see. We'll have to see them do it and do it for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Woodcroft was freaking out at any point. He was so chill to the point where after games, people would be like, "Why will he not call people out?" So, I mean, I don't know how much calmer you can actually be than the coach that they just let go, Gager. But just your thoughts on the overall presence of what Knoblauch might be able to bring to that room.
Yeah, it's tough because all we've really heard about him is from Connor saying he's a very calm individual, and he actually even said that to me. You guys will see how calm he actually is.
Yeah.
So we're taking a lot from there. It's kind of been a whirlwind for him. We haven't really even heard him talk really in depth about the team and his kind of coaching philosophy of how he thinks this team should to be successful, what they need to do. So it's weird because the change of coaches usually isn't a lateral move, right? It's either the tyrant or the player's coach. And in this respect, I think they went from Woodcroft 1B, same kind of communicator, same type of demeanor in when he talks to the media. So yeah, it's it's interesting to have the kind of the same type of coach that takes over from a team that you were looking for answers from.
Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and Joaquin Gage with you here on Two Guys and a Goalie. We're going to use this message to kind of transition into the decision to make the coaching change. Actually, no, that's more of about the press conference. We'll get to that in a second. Cass, you said you're still kind of fired. I know you'll get to that. Do you want to talk about just the decision to get rid of Woodcroft first, and then we can get into the presser?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, they kind of tie in hand. They tie in hand, and the reason I'm still chewing on it is the press conference.
Okay.
Like,
well, then let me read this. Let me read this message here from Larry, because he says, as a season seat holder, I'm embarrassed how the press conference and overall situation on the weekend was handled. It makes the organization look very Mickey Mouse. So he's a season ticket holder who's watching this and being like, my God, this is how they're organizing things right now, which is, I guess, what you're saying kind of like has you thinking about things right now.
Well, it's just, I'm just chewing on it still. Like, what are you supposed to pull from that press conference? Like, what are you supposed, like, the mixed messaging? Like, if you're going to make the decision to fire him, I get it, but just where you're just like, okay, well, we don't really know whose decision it is, and there's different people saying different things about who was talked to, who was consulted, how did they come to this decision, and it's just like, oh, okay, what really is going on here? Like, it just wasn't. It was like they didn't prep before the conference.
No, you're right.
It was
this unprepped test. Exactly.
It was because it's like, okay, no, because you can figure out. I'm pretty sure you could figure out these are the questions people are going to ask, and so it's like, well, what's our messaging going to be? Because even if it's not, we want to portray it a certain way, and we're going to say a certain thing publicly, even if the discussions or how the decision was made, that's behind closed doors, and people don't need to know every facet of that. But we need to come up with consistent messaging to remain unified as an organization and unified as a group, so that we don't look like we don't know what we're doing and we don't have it together. And it's going to look like they didn't have it together. And is that just they didn't prepare enough beforehand? Well, maybe, but it's just like, I don't know. And then further to that, I mean, I'm still just chewing through the whole, now this is McDavid's agent that, well, if it, again, because we don't really know who made the hiring decision ultimately, was this McDavid's agent hiring McDavid's old coach? And I think you had mentioned on your show the other day, Dusty, and I think it's true, that it probably was yesterday, where it's just like, oh, okay, or Monday even.
Monday was yesterday.
Are they? Maybe it was yesterday. Okay, that's yeah. Oof.
You have kids, dude. I understand.
Yeah. What are they just preemptively making decisions to try to make sure that they can re-sign Connor McDavid? Like, is that what's going on with it? Like, it just doesn't look good.
It's
the way it was handled.
Yeah, it was an optical disaster. I said it. Like, I mentioned it on our show yesterday, and I'm not backing off of the comparison. It was like Ken Holland was the grandfather that they let ramble on thinking it was his own decision, while his son, Jeff Jackson, was sitting there kind of being like, all right, well, we'll just let Dad think it was his decision. And then Knoblauch is like the grandson who always wanted to be a part of the family business, but it's not really too sure what's going on. And Paul Coffey's the uncle who didn't even want to be there, but is going to be there because the family needs him in this certain moment. It's like it looked dysfunctional. It came across as dysfunctional. It might end up working. When Tommy asked, I felt really bad for Knoblauch because Tommy asked Knoblauch about if the other assistant coaches are staying in the same roles, and he had to look to Ken Holland for the answer. And I'm like, man, like, how unprepared can you possibly be for what could end up being the most critical moment in the entire Connor McDavid era with the Edmonton Oilers? So, I mean, it's the whole tie into the three moves they've made, the last three moves they made. Their only offseason addition was a former teammate of McDavid. They hired his former agent to be the CEO of Hockey Ops, and now they fired his junior coach. He said it could be no further than the truth of him having any say in this. So there's two things here. This is one of two things. Either he does have some say in it, and he's helping these guys get jobs because he thinks, like, he wouldn't do it just because. He probably thinks they can help the organization, or it's the Oilers who are saying, we got to put some things in place here, try to make sure that he's going to stay with us forever, and we think these might be things that sort of move the needle in that direction, because there's no chance it can just be a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that all these things just have come together at Edmonton at this exact time, right? And I would take McDavid's word for it, and I guess go to the organizations basically just, somebody said they're like a husband who buys bad gifts for their wife, and they're like, oh, thank you, and they put it in a drawer, and they're just like, oh, maybe this will impress you. Gager, where do you come out on how it all looks?
I think we should talk to Iwanek. He's the succession
He is
guy,
a succession
right?
guy.
So I wonder what the parallels from that meeting, if it was like a certain episode of Succession. I never watched it, but he seemed to rave about it. But no, Cass hit it, and I 100% agree with him. It was a bunch of guys going out there and winging it when in a meeting where it's kind of puzzling. Most of the time, if you're only going to have approximately 5 or 6 meetings with your clients a year, there is a little bit more preparation involved when you go into that, and not just flying by the seat of your pants. So that was the most jarring thing for me, that they weren't prepared to answer the questions that, I mean, you had to be living under a rock not to know what you were going to be asked in that scenario, right? So I don't think we'll see that again, Dusty. I think they'll be a lot more prepared in their once they get rid of Coach Garlick at their next press conference. But other than that, that was just a cluster. The next 4-letter word.
Yeah, it was a cluster mess. 100% a cluster mess. Cass, am I taking this too far to describe it as the most critical moment in the Connor McDavid era? Because this is a pretty big one here. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it either wins, you win, or you get to the Stanley Cup final, you come up just short.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden, you're like, damn it, that didn't work. Now how you're supposed to keep them?
Yeah. I mean, if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would have said the most critical moment was the hiring of Jay Woodcroft. That's probably what I would have said 2 months ago. To this date, is it the most important moment? Yeah. Is it the catalyst to spark whatever is needed to turn this around, to have a chance to make it back into the playoffs, and chance to win the cup this year and chance to win the cup next year?
Well, you made this bed for at least this year and next year, right? I mean, whoever happens, if next year is a disaster, maybe they go through it all again. But I feel like you've made your bed here for 2.5 years. So you got to go get it. You got to go get it.
You think?
Yeah. Well, I want to think, but I also thought Jay Woodcroft would be around for a little while, and he didn't even get 2 full years. So,
which is nuts. Look at his winning percentage. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, I think Rashog brought this up on our show yesterday. Like, it was a really weird when they were talking about, how they came to this decision. And I'm not even talking about how Ken Holland said he talked to some of the players and Jeff Jackson said they weren't brought in. And I know Rashog yesterday tweeted that he talked to Jeff Jackson. And, of course, Jeff Jackson is going to try to clarify when the organization's getting absolutely raked over the coals for looking like they have 2 different messages coming out. So, yeah, he's going to want to provide some clarity, even if you believe the clarity or not. And then when they were asked about, how does this decision come together, and they just kind of said, we talked about things. I thought Rashog did make a good point yesterday on the show where he said, this doesn't seem like a Ken Holland decision to fire a coach 13 games into the season, when he talked about how hard it was last time to make the call to get Jay Woodcroft in there. So it was like, to me, it comes across as a Jeff Jackson decision, but they're still rolling Ken Holland out there to kind of pass it off as he's heavily involved in it, which I really don't think it is. So it just kind of circles back around to the dysfunction of how things look right now. It's just,
that I just look into the nasty chat there, Justin. Eric Stewart saying that he was shocked when Jeff Jackson said he was thinking about coaching change after the first game. Right? That he went right to that.
Yeah, he said him and Ken started talking about it right after the first game. He did say that. Those were his words. Or did he say coaching change, or did he say they started talking about what they're going to – I think he might have said they started talking about what they're going to do after the first game.
Yeah. So
which is
crisis management a little bit after the first, which understandable the way they lost, right? It was a butt kick.
But it's one game, so I don't know.
Do you go into crisis mode right after that?
And what are we going to change after one game?
Maybe it's just maybe you have to start thinking about that in a way. Okay, what if we didn't expect this? Like maybe that was the jarring moment, right? They didn't expect to get off to that start. So maybe they just kind of take a step back and try to see the whole picture. Okay, what if scenarios start going in and Ultron starts taking over the multiverse? But you never know.
Okay, let's keep going with some questions because there's some good ones coming in. Dusty, what Friedman said about this move was that Jeff Jackson was going to hire Knoblauch eventually after this season because he's his guy. He said this on the 32 Thoughts podcast. That's what I said yesterday. I feel like Jeff Jackson probably wanted Kris Knoblauch in place from the very beginning and saw a window here with a bad start where you could pull the trigger on it. Because if not, I don't know why you wouldn't give a coach who had a .645 winning percentage and only lost to the Stanley Cup champions the last 2 years. There's only 2 years with you. Why he would not get a little bit. Like, to me, the leash that Jay Woodcroft got in this situation is a leash where you already had a year of troubles. You're like, what's going on? Like, this is his last call. He's got to figure it out to start this year, as opposed to this is a championship caliber team who might go through some ups and downs throughout the year. So, yes, this reeks of Jeff Jackson putting his guy in place. And, if this guy works out, then it's a genius move by Jeff Jackson. The other thing that Friedman said in 32 Thoughts pod, I was told yesterday, was that not all of the players were happy with this decision, which would once again kind of lead me to believe that it's the CEO of Hockey Ops saying, no, this is the guy now. And that's how it's going to work. Mind you, you guys are in rooms, or there probably were coaches changes at some point. Some guys are going to like it. Some guys aren't. Is that kind of how it usually works? Or
yeah, it's the guys that were playing that hated it.
guys that kept getting rolled out there, mistake after mistake, and never got sat on the bench.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are going to be like, what?
I loved it. Yeah. That new coach got flowers, chocolates. I came in with fresh daisies, just freshen up the coach's room, made sure he knew I did it, tried anything to get some ice time.
Ali in the Nasty Chat says, it all seems fishy how they fired Jay. I think something happened behind the scenes between the players and coaches. There's no way they became hot garbage in one offseason. And that's like, I kind of felt like the organization with what Jay had accomplished the last 2 years and the fact that they're analytically driven, and the analytics, as much as you hate them, Cass, like the expected goals for and stuff.
I don't hate them.
The expected 4 goals, like I think overall the analytics department for the Oilers had to be pretty happy with where the team was at outside of the win-loss category. So to me, I thought that might have bought him a little bit more time. But if Knoblauch was always going to be the guy, there's a small window here to make the change already. And maybe in the end, Jay Woodcroft just wasn't Jeff Jackson's guy, and he saw a window here to move on him. That's what the CEO of Hockey Ops. That's why he has that title, right? He can do that.
Yeah, but you shouldn't go into it with a coach that has the winning percentage that Woodcroft has, that lost to the Stanley Cup champions in a tight series. Wasn't like they got blown out. Maybe it was the plan all along, but to me, it's still. Yeah, I think it's more something just needed to change. Maybe he saw an opportunity. And from the analytics, Dusty, as I've said before, I'll say it again, I don't hate analytics.
Just let me have that.
They're descriptive, but you always need to dig in deeper, and you use analytics to say, to evaluate, this is what I'm seeing. Do the numbers back it up? And then you take it one step further and you say, okay, this is what I'm seeing. These are what the numbers say. Now, how do I lean that against what I'm seeing to fully understand the situation? So, for example, if you just have high danger scoring chances, the percentage that they're giving up is way high. And it's this extremely high percent. And it's like, okay, but then why? You have to take it further and say, okay, well, there's no we abandoned the guy in the back door. There's no analytics that say we abandoned the guy on the back door and we let the cross ice pass through and the tap it. Now it might be from a heat chart. You can look and see where the goals were being scored from, and you evaluate. So it's helpful. Analytics are good. They are helpful. But people that just sit and look at them and say, oh, well, this is this and this means that this, and It's like, no, there's always outliers and there's way too many variables to rely solely on analytics. And so I don't know. I don't think the analytics had much of anything to do with his firing, one way or the other. But
do you think in the off season, like they're going to be looking for another GM, right? So do you think that old JJ pulls a Dubas and is walking in the foyer of his mansion past a full length mirror, and while he's looking for a GM, and go, oh, there's my GM, and he takes them. That's the GM I'm looking for.
Another Hey King moment.
Yeah,
another Hey King moment.
I can see it happening, man. He's he's going to take
and
the
now
reins.
It's time to crown the Oilers GM. I am GM.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how that sorts itself out when it does. All right. Dylan Holloway. Gregor has apparently been told that Dylan Holloway will be out a while. Not sure what that means, but what have we thought of his play so far? Had the goal a couple of games ago. Was he buzzing lately? Are they going to miss Dylan Holloway? Tough to see him get injured again if it's going to keep him out for a little bit of time. He's kind of had that reputation sort of developing here over the last little while. Gager, what have you thought?
Look, I've always, it's kind of irked me, everyone saying he needs to play top 6 minutes and he's an offensive player and needs to do that. I haven't seen anything that shows me that whatsoever. I think he's a really good player. He's an NHL player, but he's a young guy trying to figure out what type of player he needs to be to become successful at the NHL level and become a regular. And really, I think we saw a glimpse of what it's going to take for Dylan Holloway to become that player against the Kraken the other night, where there was the first time that I think a player on the Oilers, besides someone named Kane, that got into the equipment of other players, and other players were starting to look to give a guy an extra shot because he was getting irritating to play against. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. Great goal that he scored. That's the type of player Dylan Holloway has to become, like almost a Hyman Light with a little bit more edge that drives players crazy to play against. And I'm not saying just running guys through the boards. Just, God, this guy doesn't quit. You know, he won't leave me alone. I don't have time when he's on the ice because he's always on me. And you saw that. And I think the fight represented that. Great timing for a fight because it took the wind out of the sails for the Kraken at that point. Really, I'm disheartened because I have been quite critical of him in the past, and I liked to see what he was doing these last 2 games. To see him get injured now, once he kind of got the train rolling, it saddens me. It saddens me a little bit because I think we were actually starting to see what type of player Dylan Holloway is going to become.
Yeah, well, I think hopefully it was like a switch had flipped and clicked to be like, oh, wait, I was really good the last couple of games. And why was I really good the last couple of games? It was because I was playing this way. Penner's Pancakes mentioned, and I saw this too. He did have an awkward fall into the boards.
Yeah. That's when he went down. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something from that. Now, what could it be? Hard to say. So hopefully
looked like he might have slid into the board. Well, he wasn't flying, but it looked like he sort of caught a rut and then went down, and his knee kind of might have taken the brunt force of that. So we'll see how that continues to play out. I've been wanting to get to this text for a little while, and I can't find it, but I remember the gist of it. And they were asking you, Gage, if your thoughts on does Skinner's recent play have anything to do with Jack Campbell being sent down?
Good point. It could, definitely. Knowing that there's no other competition was what I loved being a goalie. If the other guy could barely skate, Dusty, I like my chance.
Look at this fool.
There is something psychological that can help you. That I think Stuart Skinner's strong enough mentally to go, I'm the guy now. There's no one else here. Time for me to really do something. It's all how he takes this moving forward. Does he take am I the guy now? And there's too much pressure on him to become the guy, or does he go, this is my opportunity to take the ball and run with it for a few first downs here? Because look, we sent the guy making more money down to the minors, so it can go either way. But if there was something on CoolBet that had Skinner's game getting to a better level, I would bet the over on that. I think it's possible, just because there is no pressure anymore. There's no competition. He's just the guy, and I think he's with his start and how things have gone, I think he's going to parlay that into hopefully a solid end of November here.
All right.
Less about Campbell.
Okay.
More about not having backdoor tap-ins. So you talk about all the time.
I mean, you're probably right, Cass, when it's all said and done.
Those backdoor tap-ins, they make a goals against average drop significantly.
Frank Saravalli tweeted today, GMs have discussed the idea of changing a rule to limit teams from continually looping back and regrouping in 3-on-3 overtime. Potential solutions include, once you cross the red or blue line, you can't go back out again, or a shot clock in overtime. Says discussions are ongoing. It'll be tabled to March when they go to their GM meetings where nothing actually happens anyway, and they'll talk about it for 2 seconds, and we'll all be like, are you changing overtime? And they'll say, no, I tabled it for a future meeting. I mean, I feel like this all of a sudden just gets tabled for 2.5 years. But, Cass, what are your general thoughts on making some changes to 3-on-3?
Yeah, like throwing in an over and back rule, basically. I mean, the tough thing is, what happens if you bobble the puck? Let's say you pass the blue line.
Then you have to
bobble
leave
the
it,
puck.
I guess. Like,
how is that going to work, though? Like, you can't touch the puck, or it's another face-off. It's a whistle, which would then slow it down. Like, how functionally is that going to work? Or is it going to be up to the referees? Is it going to be at their discretion? And do you take a penalty? Or does the other team, are we playing shitty now? Or that means you have to flip the puck into the other team's zone and they get the puck now?
if the shot clock ends?
Yeah. Like, how are you functionally going to make it happen? So I don't think anything happens. Sure, they can talk about it. I don't think anything changes. I don't think it needs to change. I get why teams loop back. That's puck possession. You want to score goals in overtime. The whole point is to have goals scored, to create chances, and to have a definitive outcome to the game. I don't think this ever happens.
I'm surprised they even I'm surprised they even wasted time talking about it.
It just, again, I mean, it's just, if you're just looking for something to have to talk about so people can talk about it and we can talk about it, sure. But to me, it just functionally, it wouldn't work.
Gage, any thoughts on this?
I mean, a shot clock would be very interesting. I'm completely intrigued, but like you said, Cass, how do you enforce when it expires, right?
Well, it'd be like lacrosse where you just have to sort of dump the ball. You just leave it.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's what are you just doing a big?
I mean, it turns into straight up shitty. I mean, that's like when we're doing our alumni skates. Like, if there's an offside, that's what you do. You don't do a face off. You just flip the puck into the other team.
Yeah. When Cass goes bar down, I just pull the puck out of the net and put it behind the net. It's
pretend it didn't happen. Yeah.
Anyway, that's something to kind of keep tabs on. I don't know if you guys saw it earlier today, but an arrest has been made on the suspicion of manslaughter in the death of Adam Johnson. Now, we're going to have Matt Kramal on tomorrow. He wrote about it, and he thought it could end up being manslaughter. It doesn't look like there's been a charge, and they didn't name the person. They just said an arrest has been made in suspicion of manslaughter. So to me, this would sound like you're bringing him in. He's under investigation for possibly manslaughter in the death of Adam Johnson, and now there would be a questioning process and things like that to determine if whether or not he's going to be charged in this situation. Gage, are you surprised at all that it has gotten to this point right now?
From a country that had me as their Hart Trophy winner? No, not at all. It's absolutely crazy that this is happening. We talked about the actual play. It looked like it's almost a suspendable play to lift your foot up like that. Like, it looked like he was trying to get a piece of him. Obviously, an attempt that went severely wrong. Things happen too fast. The only person that I know that really tried to kill someone with a skate was Link Gates when he threw a skate at George Burnett. That's the only time it's ever happened that I actually know that someone could have gotten arrested. No, this is ridiculous. It was a play that I'm sure that he wishes he could have taken back. But no, this is come on.
Cass, no,
guys,
they've
no one.
I in one of the releases I read, they've like talked with many experts about this, and they've been diving into this for a couple of weeks now. So they must think that there's a case here. How would you expect this to play out? Like, I'm a little surprised. I mean, to me, it was a ridiculously, absolutely stupid play. He wasn't trying to kill him, but he was trying to get a significant piece of him, and he had his skate blade leading the way, which is just boneheaded and stupid. But I'm still a little surprised that it got to this point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not Eric Macramella.
Let's be honest. He might British not technically be a lawyer either. So
he may not be either. Fair point. So I don't know. I don't know. I still haven't watched it. Still don't have a desire to watch it. But I mean, if someone dies like that, you have to do an investigation. You have to be thorough, and if it does warrant charges, then it warrants charges. Now again, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't know like for the difference between like involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to the bottom of with because if he was, it certainly looked like he was intending to kick him to try to stop him. And if that is that one of those situations where you've got a blade on your foot and you have to be in charge of that better? Like, does that lead to? I don't know. I'm very interested to talk with Macramella about this and get to the bottom of it. Because he's got to look after your foot better. Like,
if that's manslaughter, Cass should be in San Quentin right now for the amount of stuff he's done, beating people up. Like,
but he didn't kill anybody. He didn't kill anybody. Though.
Still.
Like, this is the thing. Like,
involuntary. And I'm fairly certain the involuntary portion of it is you didn't mean to. Like it was,
that could end up. Like, there's a difference here, and that's what we'll get to with Macramella. There's manslaughter, and then there's involuntary manslaughter, right? So we're not experts. It's a huge story. Like a player overseas who made a play that led to the death of a player on the ice is now being arrested and questioned on manslaughter charges. Not on charges yet, but on the accusation of manslaughter. So it's yeah, I mean, I don't know. Macramella tomorrow morning on the Nielson show. It's funny. I've just got such a busy week. I texted Macramella and I was like, hey, dude, I said, is there any way you can do tomorrow? Like, I got to take off after the show tomorrow. He texted me back. He goes, Dusty, we do it on Wednesdays now. I was like, oh, yeah, great, thanks, man. Like, I'm just going, I'm off. I'm gone for like the next 5 days. I was just totally zoned out. And Macramella was like, no, we are on Wednesdays. I was like, oh, okay, perfect. So he will join us tomorrow, and we'll try to get to, just the legal side of this, and if this can actually lead to a manslaughter charge or an involuntary manslaughter charge. I know Macramella's dove into it for Forbes, and we will get into that as we work our way through the Nielsen show tomorrow morning. So as we were doing the show today, I checked in for my flight tomorrow to Toronto for Grey Cup, and it's been nice most of the year because I'm platinum status on WestJet now. So a lot of the year I've been upgraded. So I'm sitting at the front, or I upgrade myself for a reasonable price, or I get into the emergency row. This week, coming back from Winnipeg 2 days ago, I just got jammed into a regular window seat. And Cash, you know it. I mean, 6'5", it sucks. So I get jammed in there. Yep. So I went to check in while we were doing the show. I just want you guys' thoughts on what I did here. So I was in a regular aisle row. There was window seats available in regular window seats, and I do like being against the window if I have enough leg room. But I decided to go middle seat in emergency row, and I hate middle seat, but it's emergency row. So, Cass, you're a big guy. Would you have rather taken regular size row, aisle seats, you can get the one leg out, but then you got people coming and going, you got to worry about the whole time, or go middle seat, which I despise, but it's a long flight, and I do have the extra leg room. So what do you think?
That's a tough one.
I know.
That's a tough one. I probably would lean towards exit row as long as it's one that can lean back.
Well, I don't lean back, though.
Yeah.
I lean
You
back.
lean
He's
back?
6'5",
You
barely.
ass. I never lean back, especially when in an emergency row because you already have all that extra room.
Yeah,
I could never do
I
that
lean
to
back.
somebody. Wow. Cass.
People do it to me all the time.
My opinion of you, I thought the Loki takes were bad. This one's really bad. Gager, what do you think? Did I make the right call here, moving middle seat emergency?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel pretty confident. I feel pretty good about it.
You're a tall drink of water, Dusty. You got to stretch your stuff out.
You're right. I do have to stretch out, and that's gonna be a long trip. I want to get to this question that came in as we do.
Oh, one thing, Dusty. Since you're in Hamilton, right?
I will be. I'm going to be in Niagara for 2 nights and Hamilton for 3. So
okay, make sure you hit. I'm sure Hess Village is going to be
Hess
off
Hess
the
Village.
charts. Yeah, in Hamilton, just a little strip of bars. I frequented that street.
Is it
a lot
downtownish?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
it's downtownish. So just go down there, take some pictures. Let me see what you can drop my name to some of those places. I'm sure they still remember me.
Gordon in the nasty chat a little bit earlier on said, guys, what are the microwave heating instructions for a pizza pocket? I'm thinking 45 seconds aside. Steve replied and said 90 seconds for a pizza pocket and says 90 per side or in total. He says, thanks. Now, it's different because if it's a pizza pocket, you're not flipping it, right? But if it's a pizza pop, you would flip it. So it's 2 different scenarios here. Cash, do you have any hot takes on this?
You can still flip a pizza pocket.
No, you can't.
You start it.
You
can.
No, you put it on the soft side. It would squish it right down. Unless you start it on the hard side, the round side.
You started on that side. Give it your for the first chunk of it, and then you flip it, and then you finish it.
I've never flipped.
I've
never flipped a pizza pocket.
What are you guys talking about? Like in the microwave?
Yes, in the microwave.
Yeah.
You don't.
I mean, they're way better if you got an air fryer.
There you
do it in the
go.
air
Yeah.
fryer.
Thank you. If
you got the air fryer.
You don't use a microwave.
Not everyone has one of those.
Oh, everyone's got one of those. I haven't seen one house that
we have an air fryer, but I'm too intimidated to use it. I'm always afraid I'm going to burn myself. I haven't used it once.
Oh no.
Oh, it's so easy, dude.
Really?
Go to Canadian Tire. There's usually a brand on. I bought mine.
So an air fryer, you will
like
put the pizza
$60.
pocket in it, then just close down the top and hit boom, and that's it.
Boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
much.
it'll be
I
perfect.
always thought my wife was doing like huge things when she's using the air fryer. I was just like, wow, this is crazy.
No.
Huh.
It's a microwave that takes a little bit longer.
and you get the nice
it's
crispy outside.
Crispy thing. Yeah. Oh, day old pizza. Fantastic.
Oh, air
In the
fryer.
air
Really?
You know what
Oh
I
my
do though with day old pizza Gager
start doing
is
this.
I give it 30 seconds in the microwave.
Oh,
45 seconds if you're doing 2 slices.
Yeah.
Just to warm it up a little bit, then into the air fryer.
Then into the air fryer. Yeah.
A couple of experts over here.
genius.
Nutsy Dielson in the YouTube chat says, you got to lean back, but the trick is to get everyone in the row to lean back before the people behind you show up. Then it's like half an inch, and no one can tell if all the seats are lined up. I was like, actually, that's
Yeah.
real sneaky,
Get there.
and I like it. This other one in the nasty chat says, I did emergency row, middle seat, row 14, last night on my flight back from L.A. You'll love it. And you know what? I am actually in row 14, middle seat. Basically the exact same spot. And they say I'm going to love it. So that's great. Jonathan says air fryer equals easy bake oven for men. So that's good to know as well. All right, boys, let's get to final 5 minutes here. We got to get into Loki. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Gager, your take on it before we go to Cass and see if Loki being a god got him back on track here.
Perfect. It was
perfect, wasn't it?
From the moment he showed up with the going looking for the Tesseract in the Avengers to this point, the arc of Loki, he wanted to become a god, learned from his mistakes, got to a point where he's trying to save everyone, and now he's sitting on the throne, basically becoming spoiler alert, the Loom himself, and fixing everything with his big horns on the throne. That's what this whole thing was about.
Boy.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
Cass, when he was walking
Gager,
out there. Okay, go ahead.
Can you? So why did he decide to save all his friends?
Because he loves them and he cares about them. What's wrong with that?
Where did that come? Like, none of the last character arc made any sense to me. Now, if you would have had his motivation from the start of the season until the end of this, the start of Loki season 1 until the end of this, he was still trying to gain control of something and to be super powerful and everything. Well, then, yeah, I'd go like, yeah, I mean, he wants to be the one holding everything together and holding the strings because he can pluck the strings and make people dance and do things and be mischievous. But that's not his whole motivation for doing it is, no, I'm going to save my friends. And it's just like, no, where did that come from?
Well, it's not just his friends. He's saving the entire multiple timelines, right? He's bringing the entire universe together.
He's doing it for his friends.
Yeah,
he's doing it for his friends.
So you still didn't like the final episode?
It was better than the most of the season.
God,
it was better than most of the season, but I just felt the season was a disappointment.
I thought this season
I can't wait for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years will pass. I'll go back and watch the whole thing again and be thoroughly enjoyed.
It was much better than season 1, and there won't be a third season. Like he's in his spot for the MCU moving forward, right? Like,
yeah. I don't know if we'll even see him. He's just that.
Eric is in.
He who remains.
This is what I texted you, Gage. He's the god of stories. That's what I did. I did some reading on the whole tree or whatever, and I was just like,
nerd.
Well, but tell me, Cass, tell me at least when he's walking out there and his clothes are being torn away and the green cape is back and the horns are coming out. You're telling me that wasn't absolutely incredible?
No, that was a cool moment. I'm not saying there weren't cool moments where I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Oh, that's pretty sweet. I just feel the character motivation for me, I just couldn't buy into it. I couldn't buy into it. So were there cool moments? Absolutely. I just couldn't buy into it as a whole. It didn't enthrall me like it has enthralled you guys. He has taken the Tesseract in the little staff thing and he's pressed it against both of you and you're brainwashed.
That's well played. Gager, don't you think like with him kind of controlling all those timelines now, it really sets them up to do some pretty crazy stuff in the future here?
Oh, yeah.
It? Like,
yeah. Something will happen where he is to get back in there. And so, but yeah, I think it's great. It's having him there is the realm of possibilities, Dusty, is quite vast.
It was less confusing than the Oilers press conference over the weekend.
I'll give you that.
We can agree on one thing. Yeah. We can agree on one thing.
We can agree on that.
All right, that is going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, wait. Yeah. Does that mean Dustin Schwartz is he who remains? Is that
he's there at the end of time, buddy. He's there at the end of time. That's going to do it for another day of coverage here at Edmonton Sports Talk. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow getting you set for another Oilers game as they try to make it 3 in a row for the first time this season. You guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll talk to you later in the week, boys.
Later, boys.